Buddy, that was delightful. Didn't that feel good? It just felt good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Awakening the quality of truth. A bit challenging. But that's why I love that reading that Damien did by Thich Nhat Hanh, Clouds in Each Paper. We can't really argue with that truth, can we? That there's sunshine in the paper, that there's the energy of the logger in the paper. You know, for many years I worked in the pulp and paper industry up in Puget Sound, and I bought all the logs that made the paper. So I know all the pieces that go together. And it's a real sweet story when you look at how many thousands of people you could say are in each piece of paper. It's a wonderful thing. So we exist in this state of interbeing where we're all together, we're all one, we're all dependent on each other, and yet we're all independent, aren't we? We're all independent children of God. So we share this existence and this interbeing with the plants that we grow and eat, the animals that we eat, the people who make our clothes, the people who grow our food, the people who populate our community, and you can extrapolate out onto the whole earth. And then the insects. Somebody said, boy, the mosquitoes are bad this year. I haven't had that experience, but when we talk about interbeing, we have to talk about the insects that pollinate the fruit trees of all the good fruit that we like to eat. And the tall trees that give us shade and give us lumber for our homes. So it's a wonderful experience to just feel that oneness with all. We feel it's the truth, but you know, we live in the era of fake news, and it's always a challenge. And I'm sure you often have that experience that you're listening to something or reading something and you're going, wait a minute, that can't be true, can it? Can that really be true? Well, the dictionary says that truth is the quality of being honest and accurate in relating facts, stating something as indisputable facts, obvious facts, or just something I accept as a fact. All those different levels of truth. Or it can be an agreement with someone. I make an agreement and that agreement is made in truth, whether somebody thinks it's crazy or not. I've made this agreement and it's the truth. But you know, I believe in gravity. And science still can't explain it all, but I believe gravity is truth because it happens all the time. I don't have to adjust it or worry about it or be concerned about it. It's working all the time. So to me, that's a pretty good truth. I believe in gravity. Well, here at the center, we have many truths, and I'm going to share a few with you and see if you agree. The first one is God is all there is. Now, that's a big truth. It's a big truth. But we're saying that this thing we sometimes call God, I like to use infinite intelligence, that has created the whole universe, and it's everywhere present, that makes sense to me. I can say that's truth. We also say there is no spot where God is not, everywhere present. That feels comfortable. That feels comfortable. That the essence of God is everywhere. And then here's one. God is good all the time. All the time? Are you sure? We believe it's true. But if you had a doubt, if you had a little bit of a doubt, sign up for my fall class on Emma Curtis Hopkins. And you that have taken Emma know when you're done with that class, you're going to believe God is good all the time. There's an Indian sage that taught that illusions of truth exist because we don't investigate them. We just accept them. We haven't asked whether it really confirms our life experience. But if we have any mental suffering or doubt or angst about what someone says is true, it's time to investigate. And I wish I had a Sherlock Holmes cap to put on this morning because investigation is very, very important. You know, my husband Paul and I are avid readers. We read several magazines a week. He's always got 4 books on his table. We're always reading books. We get newsletters. You name it, we're reading it. And I do that personally because There aren't a lot of people out there in the media world that I can truly trust to tell me the truth. So I read all this and I come up with my own idea of what the truth is, and then I can sleep well at night. So the quality of news from some sources, if it gives us angst, investigate. Get more examples, talk or read other things. The Buddha taught that ignorance is the root of all suffering. And he wanted his followers to get a grasp on what they believe about themselves. What do you believe? Because he felt that we all get a fragmented view of reality. We have some experiences, we don't have all experiences. We don't have the experiences of the poor in these third world countries. We don't have the experience of the terrorism that goes on in some of these countries. So our idea of truth is fragmented. And it's not that that's bad, it's okay, but it's just to realize that. For example, would you want to be a news correspondent in Paris? Oh, wouldn't that be lovely? How about Baghdad? A little bit different truth of what a news correspondent does. So our thoughts and beliefs can be real, but they are not necessarily true. Just because we think them and believe them, it's not necessarily true. The Buddha illustrated this with an ancient story. A king invites 4 blind men into his castle and says, I want you to describe an elephant. So he puts one on a leg, one on an ear, one on a trunk, and one on a tusk. And they're feeling it all up. And they all describe what an elephant is. And they all get very angry with each other. You can't be telling the truth. Who are you to say this is an elephant? And so it shows an example that when we only look at part of a story, we're getting a view that doesn't contain the whole truth. Is that important? It depends. It depends. Because every belief we make, everything we decide for ourselves, I believe this is true, it's a snapshot of time. It's a snapshot. Some beliefs are more fear-based. And in the science of mind philosophy, when we develop a belief based on fear, we're separating ourselves from this interbeing, this being with all. We can even separate ourselves from God, that God isn't good all the time. If we have a fear-based belief, we can end up with an addiction to just escape from what we believe. We can really begin to suffer about what we think is reality. Then there's also that moment of truth where you've been believing A, because A always tells the truth, and you go to a different news source that is B, and you go, they're always wrong, and then you listen to B and you go, well, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. And so you can start to change your moment of truth, and those kind of happen in surprising ways. We don't expect it. I felt, I don't want to say sad, but I felt some compassion for the news story in the Record Searchlight yesterday that a big rig drove into the back of a pickup truck and the people in the pickup truck were killed. And yet in that same article, the police talked to witnesses and they said, no, the truck was coming from a different direction. And somebody's going to have to figure that out. What's the real truth? But will the families of the people whose loved ones died, you know what I mean, their families, will they take the report as truth? Will they trust the source? Do they trust that that report will be true? So my heart goes out to them. Pema Chodron, she's a Tibetan Buddhist teacher. She says when we wake up from a long train of thought, like if we've been daydreaming for 10 or 15 minutes, we wake up and the dream experience feels real because we've been putting ourselves in it. Like we're going to go on a cruise this fall, and I can feel myself sitting on the deck and the wind blowing and walking on the beach and eating good food, and I get all these emotions and feelings just from my thoughts, But my thoughts aren't true because it hasn't happened yet. But it's gonna, And it's going to feel really good. So our thoughts are real, but they're not necessarily true. It's almost like being in a virtual reality situation. Put on a headset, and you're really enjoying the dream of what's happening, and take it off, and it's not true. Another Buddhist teacher, whose name I can't pronounce, and I hate mispronouncing names, but he uses the phrase real but not true. We can be obsessing about something, I don't know, name your obsession, about what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with our neighbors, what's wrong with life, what's wrong with the law, what's wrong with anything. And on the spiritual path, we recognize that if we become too obsessed with negative things, there's some inner wisdom that will hopefully say, stop it. Stop it. It's not true. Investigate it, investigate it, investigate. If that's one word you take with you today, please do. When you have fear or worry, you can investigate. It's important because our core beliefs are usually based on our greatest fear. Our greatest fear, our strongest assumptions about life, what you believe is happening in the world. And all this is stored in subconscious mind. And if you've been a student here for long, you know that is the creative process. When things go into subconscious mind and we continue to give them energy, it attracts like energy. It's just the way it works. So these core beliefs are at work every day. They filter our experience. For instance, if you're talking with a good friend and you ask them a question and they seem very preoccupied and don't answer your question, your first instinct might be, they aren't interested in me, and you start to pull back. If you have a boss and he says, I want you to write this report, and you write this report and he comes to you and goes, we're going to have to rework this report, your instinct may be, I'm no good. I'm a lot less than he expected me to be. But if we can open up to the truth, if we can investigate, then a whole other realm of possibilities can show up. Like the friend that wasn't paying attention to your question, you weren't paying attention that they were having a problem that you didn't even ask about. For the boss that asked you to rewrite a report, it might be that he wanted this report to be so good that he could take it to all the other managers and say, look at this guy, he's great. He can write great reports. But we won't know if we don't ask, if we don't investigate. Recently it was interesting for me, as a co-senior minister and the administrator in the office, to watch our leadership group. Now, you can be in leadership if you want to. We invite everybody into leadership. But when it comes to making big decisions, we check with leadership on what we should do. And they all agreed to spend a significant amount of our reserves to take care of the damage done by the snowstorm, to take down the branches that were hanging from the snowstorm that were dangerous, to go ahead and get a bid and make a commitment to seal the flat roof over the social hall and the offices so they stop leaking and stop doing the damage they're doing to the walls, to put up fencing around the HVAC units. I don't know if you know how beautiful they are, but we think a fence would be helpful and it would keep people from tinkering with them. And then a fence around the children's garden so that the little ones can go outside and we don't have to worry about them running off. So all these things have been approved to be done out of our reserve funds. Are they all emergencies? Yes and no. But it seems prudent to not ignore what can be done when we have the funds to do it. So the question is, will our reserve funds get built back up again? Will the community help? Will you know that they've been managing money so well that we have these funds to spend and to improve things? And so it got a little stressful, and I have this little heart ball here. It's a stress ball. Yeah. Wait a minute. We did prayer. We're trusting in God. We're trusting in the dedication of the community to know that when funds are spent well, it's worth replenishing. So that's why the table is at the back. replenishing our restricted funds. And that's why for whatever donation you get a stress ball with the logo of the church on it. They're in the basket there on the table. So I just thought that might be a good way, because we were stressing out, can we do it? And we're going, wait a minute, who are we? This is Science of Mind. We trust in the creative process of the universe. We trust in God. We trust in ourselves. We trust in you. So that's kind of fun to say today. And so if we pay close attention about our beliefs, we can see them happening in our lives. If you think that most people don't like you, you're going to have some air of resistance to meeting new people, and they probably won't like you. It's like what goes around comes around. You confirm your beliefs. If you're afraid somebody's going to criticize you, you might be really hesitant to speak up or do something, because when you do, your fears are realized. The Buddha taught that our mind, when it's captured by fear, we will find trouble following us everywhere we go. And he likened it to the wheel that follows the cart being pulled by the ox. Our fear is the ox, and the wheel just follows right behind. Byron Katie said it this way: you're either attaching beliefs to your thoughts or you're inquiring, investigating. There's no other choice, because the purpose of investigating is to put a pause on our chattering mind. Just pause. Let the truth shine through investigation. So whenever you're having any emotional upset, ask yourself, what am I believing? What am I really believing? Because it's in subconscious mind. It's working 24/7 to give you that same experience, emotional experience. A man came to me recently to talk about his son who he had a terrible, terrible argument with. And as a dad, he assumed that if he didn't express his anger towards his son would not shape up. He was really worried, would my son become a responsible adult? So I better tell him when he's screwing up. I said, is it really true? Is he really screwing up? Well, I'm just afraid he might. Ever hear a parent like that? So he didn't know if his anger was helping his son, really. And I said, wouldn't it be more valuable to say, son, you have within you the intelligence of the universe. You have within you the knowledge of good and bad, right and wrong, and I trust you, and I love you. Wouldn't that be better? He said, I've always been looking for what's going wrong, but he would give that a try. Another method of investigation is look at where the energy is settling in our bodies. Our beliefs, our emotions are always accompanied by energy flow in our body. And if we have a limiting belief, we might feel some tightness, or if we're constantly worried, we might feel maybe an ulcer is coming on. You never know. And so Raymond Charles Barker wrote that problems are indications that something must be done in our mind. Our emotions, our beliefs and thoughts are energies that settle in various parts of our body. Here's an example. I was married at age 19, and we got married, and my husband was in the Navy on Whidbey Island, and we lived in Navy housing, which was, anyway, it was nothing I expected to have to live in for a while, but, and in 6 months, I thought I was pregnant. We had all these plans. I mean, we were gonna travel the world, we were gonna do all these things, and now I'm pregnant. And about the same time, I had this twitch in my eye. It was driving me crazy, just driving me crazy. It was constant. So anyway, I went to the doctor, and he examined me, and he said, well, you're not pregnant. I said, well, then what do I do about this twitch in my eye? And he said, what twitch? And it was gone. It was gone. I couldn't even make my eye twitch. It was all that nervousness about worrying about being pregnant. So ever since then, that's when I learned the mind-body connection. I really did. And ever since then, I do pay attention. What's aching, whatever's going on. What am I experiencing? What am I believing? What am I focused on? So whenever you have a negative belief and you know it's there and it's fairly constant, Know it's settling in your body, and your body's adapting to it. It's adapting to it. A year ago, a lady called me from Southern California. I don't know how she got my name, but she said, Reverend Mary, I need your help. I've been diagnosed with hepatitis C, and I want it gone. So I talked to her, I investigated. I'm squeezing this ball. I talked to her and found that she had been in Science of Mind for over 20 years, and she knew it all. And I said, well, do you know Louise Hay? She said, I've heard of Louise Hay. And I said, well, you know, she has worked many years to find these where energy tends to settle in our body when we're worried about something, when we're chronically worried about something. So I said, do you mind if I pull her book off the shelf and read what she says about hepatitis C? She said, no, that'd be fine. I said, the tendency, her energy that could cause hepatitis C was deep, deep regret. I said, does that make any sense? She said, oh yeah. Last year, I retired from a job I loved dearly. I was in that job for many, many years. And ever since I retired, every day I regret retiring. Every day. Deep, deep regret. I said, well, sweetheart, you might want to find a new hobby. Find something else to put your mind on, something else other than that regret. So I did a prayer for her about moving forward from the past, letting the past go and moving forward. I didn't just leave her there, in case you were wondering. So if you can identify a negative belief that's in subconscious mind that you keep throwing more energy on, that's working around the clock to bring you more like energy, ask yourself, what would my life be like without this belief? Would it restore my enthusiasm for life? Would it improve my relationships? I bet it would. Can you replace it with something positive? Because over time, pouring that positive energy into our belief system, we get a taste of freedom of what this is really all about. It's all about freedom, freedom to choose. So I hope this has been helpful information, because today there is a cloud and sunshine in all my papers up here. There's a logger eating wheat buns. There are so many thousands of people that have worked together to create these sheets of paper. But then without rain and sunshine, they couldn't grow. So life is really kind of mysterious when you think about it. Without this paper, without this talk today, it would never get in my next book that I'm going to write. So I see life as God's playground, this huge universe that's just a playground. And as a student of Science of Mind, this philosophy, I trust in the process. I trust in whatever's happening has cause and effect. I trust it implicitly, and I sleep really good. So let's pray about that. Beginning today, we all see clouds in the paper, the newspaper, the magazines, the paper towels. We see rain and sunshine pouring into our lives to help us grow, to help everything grow. Because this is a universe created by the one infinite intelligence, and we are each one part of that. In this life we call interbeing, we're all part of the solutions, and we're all part of the problems. And we are individually responsible for what we believe. Our beliefs manifest further experiences of that belief. So today, for everyone here, I believe in love, in the power of love. The power of loving every person on earth, no matter how confused they may be. I give them love. And the knowing that love is like a miracle. It helps change the infinite possibilities that are there for everyone. And so as we give love, we know we also receive love, which is wonderful. But the world desperately needs more love. The sky, the moon, the atmosphere, the forest, the ocean, all need our love. So today I accept this, that this little talk on clouds in the paper shifts my knowledge about what's true in life. Because I know I can count on that. What else do I choose to make a belief in my mind? So I give great thanks for just bringing up this subject, for the 10 renditions of this talk that I wrote, for the dozens of books I pulled off the shelf, to pull it together into something that I trust will find its own place in your heart. And for this, I am so grateful. For this center, I am incredibly grateful for this teaching, for being part of you here. I am so grateful. And I let it all be with love and joy. And so it is.